Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 25th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 17 in the house, and we had an eviction. We had an HOH competition, and we have new plans for the week. New in quotation marks. With me to talk about it all is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm doing good, Taran. I was thinking about this last night, a little bit more today. We need to find a new way to define when you get a lot of information and it's like a meaty update, but also it's not because it was a lot of nothing, but it was a lot of information. I don't know quite how to put it, but it was something.
That's been the whole season, Pooya.
It has, but this is my first taste of it coming up on the update.
All right. Well, there is plenty to talk about, so we'll get into that. I did just speak with Amy, and I think we're kind of like a bit back on the schedule. Like a lot of people talk to the evictees before we do. I could definitely tell that she'd already been told about Rachel a couple of times, but it's like, I think it's a little much to sink in. Interesting conversation though with Amy. I was able to give her some info on Jimmy, and we found out who the weeniest weenie is. So check out our interview with Amy soon. But this is where we started the day yesterday on day 17. Jimmy was still the HOH. Amy, Adrian, and Will were on the block. And basically, we knew that if Amy didn't win the blockbuster, that she would go home. And there was a little bit of last minute push. Okay, the chat is like, what about Rachel? That Rachel was not the cause of her demise. That was we've been talking about that for a while. I get it. Not everyone listens to every podcast. I'm sorry. But yes, there was a last minute kind of push that Mickey basically talked to Rachel about like, hey, I'm thinking that Amy will likely be the person that I vote out. And Rachel was like, even over Adrian? Like, really? And she was like, yeah, I just feel like Adrian, he's good to his word. He's going to like win comps for us. He's not coming for us. And Rachel made this big pitch that like, that's stupid. Like you don't know where Adrian stands. He might be good with you now. He might not be coming for you now, but who knows what's going to happen in the future? Maybe he'll help you take out Keanu. Maybe Keanu will be gone next week. And then what? If you are fine, competing against Adrian now because he's with you, do you want to be competing against Adrian a couple weeks from now when your life is on the line? Like, this is what happens, is that people don't take out the threats because they think it's not a problem for them. And then later in the season, they get beat by all the threats. Like, this is not a smart decision. And it does kind of make a dent in Mickey's way of thinking. She talks to Morgan about it, and she's like, Rachel made some good points, but I think it's too late to turn the ship around. And it was. And ultimately, it didn't matter because Adrian won the battle, the blockbuster anyway. But I thought it was very funny, especially because I've really come around to this idea. And people have been saying this a bit, but like Rachel is so like Janelle in BB All-Stars coded. It's not even funny. Like just speaking, like spitting truth, but like nobody will listen to her and people randomly don't trust her for no reason.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the tough sell here, because I do think all the points are great. I still think that because of Rachel's name being attached to Amy, so many people tried to or wanted to put a wedge in there anyway. But I think ultimately for you as an individual, if the person who's on the block, you don't deem as someone who can win comps, you deem as someone who will definitely take a spot on the block over you. And you could potentially sway their vote if you needed it, and someone who's not going to come after you if they do win. These are all wins. Why are we getting this person out? But the thing with the Thursday stuff is it is too little too late. Like, to shift the tide on it. No one's trying to go out of their way, Taran, to break their back on Thursday to try and get a vote to switch up, especially when it's not, someone they're very close to.
No, you're right.
What was that? Did you ad-lib something? Did I miss something?
We saw that. We saw even the likes of Ticor and Chemo made a last minute push. I think the key here is that there was enough time for them to change their minds, but in order to actually get the votes to make it happen, they needed to put more time in to get the work done. Ticor and Chemo were able to flip at the last minute because they had the votes, basically whichever way they decided to go. But Mickey and Morgan would have needed to put in work in order to keep Amy over Adrian, and they just didn't have time to make that work, to make that happen. But again, ultimately, it didn't even matter anyway. And so we found last night that Amy was evicted by a unanimous vote. And then we have another HOH competition, which
Karen,
of course, yes.
This was a historic unanimous vote.
It was, yeah.
You and I, we share an interest. We share a fandom in one house guest who has taken many L's in his time on the show. Kaser has had the record for most votes against him in a season since season 6 until last night, and that's no longer the case. So it's weird to say someone's not on the top spot is good for their history book, but it really is good for his history book, at least a little bit, maybe.
Yes, Amy now has the most votes cast against her in a single season of the show, beating out the likes of Kaser, who of course was evicted twice in the season that he got so many votes. And this now also includes players like Victor, who was evicted like 3 times in a single season. To be fair to Amy, this is largely just a factor of being on the block in an early portion of a season with a ton of people,
right,
and surviving a split vote and then being evicted unanimously. But yes, it is now. She is now on the top spot here. So there you go, Amy.
Accolades. Yeah.
We then ran an HOH competition, and it was some sort of like quiz kind of situation. Apparently Keanu and Kelley were like 2 of the first people eliminated from the comp, so a lot of people were breathing easy, and it ultimately came down to Mickey and Lauren. Between Mickey and Lauren, and between the 2 of them, Lauren has become the new head of household. Lauren will be making the decisions this week, at least theoretically, because watch out, Vince might make the decisions. Not really, though, because he doesn't actually push anything, but he's worried that people might think he does. We'll talk about it. So Lauren is the HOH, and I did tweet this out last night. I think the key thing to understand about a Lauren HOH is actually from the episode last night. We kind of made fun of the fact that we saw this diary room from Lauren where she's very falsely, very incorrectly pointing out the 2 sides of the house. There's the guys, there's the girls, and I'm kind of in the middle. And we're like, this is a silly diary room to air as if it's truth, because it's not truth. It's just the way that Lauren sees it. Turns out, happened to be a very good diary room to air, because she then won the HOH. And given her mindset of where the house actually stands and where she falls in all of it, I think you can really easily understand why she is thinking in the way that she is when it comes to her nominations, which we will get to very shortly. All of this to say, wrong thinking. She thinks she's in the middle. She thinks that she should be doing very little, making very few waves in order to maintain her middle position, when the reality is that she is far from the middle position and should probably be trying to make a little bit of waves.
But if you operate under that information that she is playing the middle accurately, then these are very good decisions that have been made along the way. But
well, I mean, quite frankly, we'll get to that. But I think even there, it's like certain this person
pieces
or this
of
person is pretty obvious. You should go this person, and she's thinking about this person. But let's get to it. Lauren, as the HOH, celebrates with Jimmy and Vince in the, I guess we'll call this the back bedroom, the bunk bedroom, and Vince is like, "Oh, I'm so happy that the first three HOHs are the biggest fans in the house. This is so cool." And Jimmy leaves to let Lauren talk with Vince, specifically because I want to make this very clear. In front of, like, as soon as feeds came back, in front of, I would say, at least 4 people, Lauren said, Vince, I want to talk to you right now. And he's like, oh yeah. Let's like right now. She said, yes, right now, you. And then pulled him privately into the room. Jimmy followed them and then left them alone to talk. And I'm gonna talk through this entire conversation, but it had to be at least like 45 minutes long, plus, between Lauren and Vince the second she won HOH. And this is particularly funny throughout the night because of how often they mention how secret their connection is. So keep this in mind.
How secret their connection is. Also, I did love Vince saying, do you want to wait till you get your room? She's like, nope, now. and then Taran, literally any other time throughout the night that we see the two of them together, and Vince is like, should I give you space? Should I leave? She's like, no, I want you here. You don't go anywhere. So the secret should be out the window. Surely the delusion that this is a secret will go to rest now.
About 5 people walked in while they were having this long conversation about her nominations, and it was very obvious that it was about her nominations, and he was the person that she called in very publicly. Like, it couldn't have been more obvious. However, let's get to the conversation. So, Vince alone with Lauren, he's hyping her up. I'm so excited. I was rooting for you so much. This is so cool. You're gonna get to be HOH no matter what happens from this point on. Like, you now you know that you're HOH. Nobody's gonna say that you were a floater anymore. Like, this is so cool. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for us. I'm so happy that we connected. I'm so happy that we have a final 2. I'm so happy that we're gonna be like working together so much and we get along so well. And I'm so happy that we're both fans. I want to be clear. Vince, I think, is like such an interesting player because I really think he's very talented at like a specific talent, a specific skill in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that is this like one-on-one situation where he is just doing everything he can to be the most likable, agreeable person in the room to that person. And he unfortunately is like not shown to be amazing at much else at the moment, but he's so good at that. And it reminds me of Tyler, how good he is at that. Like Tyler had the same thing. And Tyler also sometimes had the problem of being too like not aggressive enough in his gameplay. But it's so, I just feel like Vince should be such a good player. And it frustrates me when he's not. But he's very good in this conversation. And one of the things that he does do that I like is very quickly he says, people are going to be concerned about Kat being in your ear. And she's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's going to be the case. I like Kat, but she can get a little worked up sometimes. And he's like, yeah, I agree. She can come off as a little abrasive sometimes. And, I don't know if we want you to be like super associated with her for people to think that she's running your HOH. And Lauren's like, yeah, no, not at all. I'm going to make this week a goal of mine to be that I sort of separate myself a bit from Catherine. I'm not going to put her up, but I want to make sure people know that I'm not being like controlled by Catherine. And I'm like, look, okay, Vince, okay, I like this little subtle jab you just did. This is like the most that he's willing to do to push in any particular direction sometimes. But I thought that was good.
Yeah, I think part of why he's able to, like, I think, make no mistake, the man can glaze like no one's business. Like, he does this better than anyone else in that house easily. I think one of the other things that factors in with that and helps is this fact that it doesn't come off too pushy or preachy with the nominations. He is very much a hands-off associate where he's like, you could do that. But also, I don't know if that's for me. That's for you to decide. I don't know if I would do that, but like I think that's enough to make people feel like safe and they don't feel manipulated by him. But then also his own agenda is not really playing out as much necessarily. But I guess who needs that when you can nice anybody up and be okay with them if you want. I don't think it works on everybody, to be clear, but I think on a lot of people it works on.
Mm-hmm. And I think honestly, like Tyler, I think he has a limited capacity for it, and as we'll talk about, he's really starting to wear thin with Kelley. But a big thing for me throughout the night is that Vince should have a lot of sway in this HOH. Lauren is really looking to him for help and advice, and he has a target, and he mentions it in this conversation. And really, Vince's goal should be making sure that target leaves. But let's talk about what Lauren is thinking, because Lauren says, okay, here's what I'm thinking. A lot of people are still gonna want Keanu, and so that's easy. It's like right away, it's like, okay, so she's gonna do, again, she thinks she's in the middle, she wants to do house consensus kinds of noms. That can make some sense. There's a world where we can make that make sense. Is it doing the house's bidding when she's not a part of the power structure of the house? Well, there's not a huge power structure to begin with, maybe. And, it's not like she has the best relationship with Keanu, but, maybe even just as a nominee by himself, maybe this could make some sense. I'm not sure. It's maybe, right? And so then he says, that's smart. Keanu's smart. And she says, okay. Now, also, a lot of people will want to see Kelley on the block, but I love Kelley. Now, remember, Lauren had a conversation with Kat a couple days ago where they both agreed it would be stupid of them to target Kelley because Kelley is good with them and they're good with Kelley, and Kelley is a problem for the rest of the house. Similar to the Keanu situation, but Keanu is a bit more of a wild card in that regard. She doesn't want to nominate Kelley. She's basically saying they're going to be pushing Kelley, but I don't want to do Kelley. And I'm thinking that is smart. That is smart of Lauren. Like, that is something that she should not do, I think, generally. However, Vince goes, well, let me tell you a story. Back in my HOH, I actually wasn't planning to put Kelley up on the block, but she actually volunteered for me. So I don't know if she would do the same for you, but like that could actually maybe be a good solution. I don't know. But maybe she'd volunteer again. It's possible. And I'm just like, Vince is HOH by proxy and he's still nominating Kelley.
Because, Taran, he's trying to alleviate her stress by taking a nomination option off the block, like he took a route out. Taran, is this time for us to talk about this twist, the 3-nominee, potentially 4-nominee every week twist that has, maybe slowed down and made options become repetitive? Is it time yet?
Maybe once we finish the options, because I think the third option is probably the most egregious.
Okay, we're on the same page. Let's keep going.
So he brings up Kelley potentially volunteering. Maybe you should feel her out, see if she's willing to volunteer for you. Why are you doing that, Vince? I don't get it. Then she says, okay, well, what I was thinking was, and I don't know, I know we're like in the Bond Alliance together, but I haven't talked like a single bit of game with Will. What do you think of that? And Vince says, well, I think if it comes down to that, I just think he would respect a heads up. That's all. And then Jimmy comes in and interrupts, and I want to talk about Jimmy coming in and interrupting because it was very funny. So let's stop here for a moment. Will is her consideration for another nominee here. Despite the fact that Will is in an alliance with Lauren, Will is in fact in the only named alliance Lauren is in. Why? They haven't talked game. Okay, that's on Will, but it's also on Lauren. But they also are in an alliance together, and surely there are plenty of other options. some of which they will discuss. But in her mind, she thinks that Will took it really well when he was on the block last time. And so throw him up.
Yeah, and Taran, this came up a lot. He survived a 13-0 vote, which meant that everyone loves him. So he's in no danger, clearly being up there. So for her, in her mind, why would he complain? He's not going anywhere. So it does not matter. Even if one of those two comes down, the other one goes, no worries. But this is kind of where you lose me as well, because there are 15 people in the house. You won HOH, so you're not in contention. There's 14 people in the house. You have a alliance of named with 6 people. You got a couple people friends outside of that. Easy. Then put the other people up. I think this riding the middle thing for her is, I'll just Keanu leaving. No one messes with him. That's easy for me. So let me put up 2 people that I think would not be offended of being up, or one might volunteer, the other won't mind, but also has not talked to me, so it's justified. It'll be fine. I think what she fails to realize is this early on, putting one of your own people in a named alliance up means that that alliance will not, some of them will not feel like this is an alliance anymore. It'll feel like you don't care about us. And I think that's something that you need to think about before you do it.
Yeah, I mean, there are no 2 sides that you're in the middle of. If you piss off one of the sides, you're breaking, the bond is barely an alliance to begin with. If you do this, you are breaking the bond of the bond. Especially when, we'll talk about this soon, the other very obvious option is Ashley, which is somebody that, again, we'll talk about soon. But before we get there, I do want to briefly mention Jimmy comes back into the room and interrupts this conversation. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just doing a thing." But also, while I'm here, so who are you thinking of nominating? And she says, like Keanu probably. And he says, well, and she's like, but I'm not sure who else. And Jimmy says, well, Kelley's already expecting to go up again. And she's like, oh, really? She's like, yeah. Kelley's expecting to go up all the time. So yeah, that's probably easy. Of course, it's in Jimmy's interests for her to put up the same nominees that Jimmy put up, because that helps spread the heat that he took for putting them up in the first place. And then Jimmy continues to go on and on for so long, giving so much unsolicited advice about how to run her HOH. Pay attention to how people talk to you before and how they talk to you now. And then Vince is like, oh, for me, it was the opposite. I paid attention to who talked to me after versus during. And he's like, yeah, and don't let anybody steamroll you or tell you what to do. And about 20 minutes into this, don't let anyone monopolize your time either. Don't let them monopolize your time. You're like, they're going to want to come in there and like really filibuster and like take up a bunch of time from you. But, feel free to, not let people do that as he continues to monopolize her time. I just found this hilarious. I found this so funny.
Same. The person who put up 5 people and none of his original 3 nominees were on the block. Yeah, I think I'm good, fam. I don't need this advice. I mean, honestly, poor Lauren. She does not really have a lot of good people in. I mean, obviously Rachel has also won HOHs, but from this season so far, the last 2 didn't do a good job. So the advice there, take it with a huge grain of salt.
So Jimmy leaves. And Lauren's like, man, it's such a good thing that nobody sees that we're together. Again, as like Rachel walks in to be like, hey guys, grabbing a thing. Keanu walks in, hey guys, just so you know, Rachel's making food. Jimmy comes in multiple times. And it's like, everyone knows that the 2 of them are talking right now and that she is okay. Anyway, they're so convinced that they're hidden, not to mention the fact that just like the day before, Rachel had caught them talking privately multiple times and was talking to everyone in the house about how the 2 of them must be really close. It's so good. It's so good that nobody sees that we're so close. Oh my God. So Vince says, here's my thought. The 2 strongest threats in the game, and to be clear, I don't want you to put them on the block, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. The 2 biggest threats in the game, Jimmy and Rachel. But I think we can trust them. And she says, oh yeah, I would not put them on the block. I I'm not putting Jimmy up for sure. And so Vince says, yeah, just feel Kelley out. See if she's willing. And she says, okay, but here's what I was thinking. I kind of want to put Ashley up. And Vince goes, well, that's not a bad idea. In fact, I would love for Ashley to leave. Now, again, Vince just agrees with everything that everyone says. But in this case, this is true, right? This is like Vince just struck gold. He's been agreeing, even offering Kelley. But all of a sudden, Ashley comes up as a possibility. And this is like the golden rays of heaven shining upon Vince, because he never pushes anything, and he just lucked into this beautiful result, which is Ashley leaving. Ashley is one of his biggest ops in this game. He tried to get her out on his HOH. She's the one running around saying he's going to win this game, putting shade all over him, talking about how he's a threat, talking about how he's, coming after people. And on top of that, it also conforms with what he wants Lauren to do, which is the same thing he did, which is just do what the House consensus wants, because Ashley is a House consensus target. And so it just makes so much sense for Vince, at the very least, to be like, yes, but under any circumstances, we must put Ashley on the block. And what he says is, oh yeah, that would be a good idea. I would love for Ashley to leave. That would be my best case scenario. I like this idea. Okay, that's like the most I've heard Vince push anything in my life.
Yeah. This, usually he's agreeable. This time he's agreeable, but you can tell it's agreeable with a pinch of, but I really want this though. Those. Okay, so I might get worked up here because this does annoy me. Taran, when you're with a group of friends, right? There's always that one friend that's like, yeah, wherever we go, I'm good with that. Wherever we go for dinner, I don't care. I'm easy. And it's like, okay, I like that. If you're easy, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then you pick a place and they're like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I might not eat. Y'all go ahead though. It's like, what are you doing? I gave you the options. You could have picked. So you can tell he's trying to push his agenda a little bit. He's like, oh, I'll eat anything, but I secretly want to go to Five Guys, if that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I feel like Vince is more, because I think you're onto something. I think he is the guy that says, I'm down for anything. But the thing about Vince, at least in the game, is that you'll then go to a place he doesn't like and he'll wax poetic about how good it is. He'll be like, oh man, this was such a good choice. You're so good at making decisions, even though he's allergic to the food. He'd be like, this is amazing. You've made such a great call. I think you're so good at this. And then he'd go and talk to other people. He'd talk to people privately in the group and be like, I can't believe they chose this restaurant. I can't believe they did that. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel like we can trust their opinions on things. And then he'd come back and he'd be like, what a great choice, guys. And so basically what happened here is that Lauren like picked Vince's favorite restaurant. And he was like, no, that actually is my favorite. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the guy also that in like a group chat of 5 people, he has a side chat with every single person talking smack about that group chat. So, yes. Yeah, he does it well, Taran. He does it well.
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
So while this is happening, they kind of conclude their conversation. There is another conversation happening. Mickey and Ava are chatting, and they're having a very sweet, like heart-to-heart moment. Where Mickey is just like pep talking Ava like hard. She's like, oh, Ava, you're just the best. I admire you so much. You know who you are at your age, and you're so confident about it. Do you know how valuable that is? Do you know how cool that is? I just found myself at like 33, like 3 years ago. I've got 3 years of me being me and knowing who I am. But you know who you are at your age. You're going to be so much like that's so much better for you. You're such a beautiful person. I love you so much. And Ava's like, oh, thank you. like very sweet moment. And Ava's about to like start sort of reciprocating a little bit when Keanu walks in, of course.
I love the way, and love might be a strong word, Keanu will walk into a room and sit down like his body language gives, I got invited to be here. You paid me. It's a paid appearance I'm making with such confidence. I really resonated with what Mickey was talking about. I feel like there's, growing up, you're told so many times that you'll figure it out by the time you're 18, 20, whatever. Realistically, some of us don't have that map until we are like 30 some. So I was very happy. Like, that made me feel good hearing it from Mickey. But then also, I think that was two people social gaming, but it was very genuine from the heart. And here comes Keanu to rain on that parade.
Yeah. So Vince goes and talks to Morgan up in the little gym, boxing gym. And they're talking, and she's kind of like, man, I hope Zach has some pull with Lauren. And he lets her know, well, actually, she pulled me to talk about noms. So, and then the feed's kind of cut. They come back. He says, I think she's going to take the shot at Keanu. And she's like, amazing. That's great. This is like best case scenario. Mickey joins. Morgan tells her, this is like best case scenario. Lauren's going to do our work for us. And then she can't compete in the next HOH. That's fantastic because Lauren is my biggest competition on a wall comp. And as we all know, the wall comp is coming up, and I'm going to win the wall comp as long as Lauren's not there. So hopefully we get the wall comp.
Listen, at this point, Taran, I can't ask for us not to get the wall comp on a season, because realistically, that's the only comp we get on feeds. So I'm not going to do that. But if they also chose to not bring the wall comp up for a season or two so that people wouldn't anticipate it or talk about it every week, I'd also not mind that. I'm very over the wall comp talk, actually, you know what? No, remove it, because when we do have it on feeds now, it's like 40 minutes. So for 40 minutes, I need to deal with this for 40 days? No.
40 minutes and they're getting slimed in the face every 2 seconds. They can barely talk.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're pumped. They're like, this HOH is going to be phenomenal for us. And this turns into a little bit of like a heavy hitters meeting with Mickey there, because Rachel joins, Jimmy joins, and Zach isn't there, but like, this is basically heavy hitters. And I think we're starting to finally see that there is a little bit of a solidification of this heavy hitters alliance. Ironically, in the first time that they're not HOH, because all of a sudden there's not an HOH of theirs doing something to screw up the dynamic of the heavy hitters. And instead, there's a third party who's just doing the work for them in Lauren is going to be the best heavy hitters HOH of the season so far, despite being the only HOH to not be in the heavy hitters. Does that make sense? She's going to do the most work for the heavy hitters to solidify and get out their target than any of the previous heavy hitters HOHs.
Well, yeah, especially when part of her HOH plans are to dissolve the Bond Alliance.
Exactly.
Little does she know it's going to happen, but
she's also intentionally destroying the only other alliance in the house that she is a part of that could oppose the heavy hitters. She is genuinely the strongest heavy hitters member. Unfortunately for her, she is not a heavy hitters member.
Right. Yeah.
So,
what a situation.
Yeah. And Mickey basically says as much, like, Lauren's going to do our work for us. This is great. And so Jimmy comes in. They start complaining about Kelley. Mostly because Morgan was initially afraid, because she'd been talking about putting Lauren on the block, and she was coming up with all of these potential explanations for why she was saying she was going to put Lauren on the block. Like, okay, well, maybe I'm just going to say that it was because I wanted her to win the blockbuster, and I'm really only going after Catherine, or like, I don't know, maybe Keanu. And then I'll say that like it wasn't even set in stone or anything. And in the meantime, Lauren hasn't even heard this. Like, it's not even a big deal. But she was worried. And so Jimmy comes in, and Jimmy's talking about like, oh man, Kelley, she keeps spreading all this misinformation. Jimmy is blaming Kelley for the fact that Riley now knows that Morgan, because Riley knows that Morgan was pushing Riley. And that's another thing that Morgan is concerned about. And Riley knows this because Catherine told him. And Catherine knows it because Jimmy told her. But Jimmy is blaming Kelley on this bit of information. Oh, Kelley must have said this. Kelley must have made this up, or Kelley must have told them. He's either intentionally covering his own butt here, or he doesn't realize that Catherine told Riley. I would assume it's the former rather than the latter. But he's blaming Kelley for this, and you know, the target on Kelley is again continuing to rise. Remember, there's still some pretty big anti-Kelley sentiment from the night before when she was raining on the have-not dinner parade and all of that. So yeah, Kelley stuff, not great.
Not great. The other thing I do want to bring up in the midst of all this also is that the moment we saw on the show where Amy essentially calls out Jimmy as a snake, Jimmy's bad, look for Jimmy, target Jimmy. Apparently not a lot of people heard that amidst all the yelling and cheering. So Morgan at one point, I don't remember who she said that to. She said she heard that and she is going to like pepper it around the house. So that's something to keep in mind.
When Morgan talks to Lauren, they bring it up, and Morgan was like, "Yeah, I didn't know who else heard it," and Lauren was like, "I heard it," and she's like, "Well, I know Jimmy heard it." So, Rachel talks to. This is a very important little interaction. Rachel is in the bathroom. Lauren and Kat are walking through, and Rachel says, "Congrats, Lauren. You know, good job." And she says, "Just." Here's my advice. Just don't let anyone run your HOH. You know, these boys will try to tell you what to do. You know, Jimmy will say, I ran her HOH. You know, Vince will say, like, I ran her HOH. At the end of the game, they'll be like, I did this, I did that. So just do what's best for you. Okay. Don't let Jimmy or Vince run your HOH. And Lauren says, yeah, okay, thank you for your advice.
And Jimmy walks in not 2 seconds later also.
Mm-hmm. And again, this was like, I was like, this is so Janelle coded. It's just so funny because obviously like the two of them are similar figures in the fandom in terms of like how they found their fame being comp beasts, and they're such good friends. And so it's this interesting combination that Janelle had also shown in her, even in Big Brother 14 as well, where like she comes in and she has so much more knowledge than many of the like new players that she's playing with. In Janelle's case, it wasn't new players in All Stars, but like it kind of felt that way when she was talking to people like Nicole and Kevin. And she's trying to like explain things, but like just doesn't quite have like the social connection with those people for them to listen to anything that she's saying. And so she keeps giving good advice that everyone's like about, basically.
It's tough, isn't it? It's like when you're watching a horror movie and you know exactly what the people shouldn't do in that cabin, but you know they're gonna do it, and it's kind of like, well, it's on you a little bit, but also, you know, I understand why you may not want to listen because you don't believe me.
Yeah. So so basically what happened here, I don't recall if Kelley was in the room or if Kelley then found this out via Lauren, which doesn't make sense because Lauren then later didn't remember that Rachel said Vince, which is kind of an important detail here. But Kelley does talk to Lauren after this, and we did miss a good chunk of this conversation, which is part of the problem. But basically, I believe that it was, you know, Lauren essentially did what Vince told her to do, which is float out the idea of what if Kelley goes on the block. And Kelley essentially then says, I'm fine with going up if that's what a lot of people are saying. Put me up. I'm cool with it. And Kelley basically volunteers herself for the block once again. And at this point, it's like, let's talk about the blockbuster, because it has brought us a lot of good, but it has also displayed pretty consistently that the same people will continue to go up on the block time and time again. Now, the issue is that a direct result of the blockbuster? Probably. There's probably a lot of influence there. However, I think there's also somebody else that we need to blame. Tucker. Because Tucker started this trend. I mean, Tucker and Kenny to some degree. But Tucker started this trend volunteering for the block over and over and over. helping solidify the same nominees every time, then went on to be a fan favorite and has now inspired directly a new player to come and do the same thing. 2 seasons in a row of this nonsense. Tucker got lucky in this. Got lucky. Tucker eventually brought us some good entertainment, so I appreciate that from Tucker. But the volunteering, when Chelsea was HOH and Tucker was volunteering, that was a no-go for me. I was not a fan of that. When Cedric was HOH and Tucker was like, put me up so that I can use the veto on Angela and we'll target Quinn, that I was more okay with. But that is not the Kelley that we are seeing. The Kelley that we are seeing is just remembering, oh yeah, Tucker just volunteered a bunch and really liked puzzles.
Yeah. Yeah, which I think that ultimately this twist, we basically saw the peak of it, Taran. I think we saw the best versions of it, which is unknown Thursdays, what's going to happen there, strategy, flipping, votes being close, someone being on the block to essentially play defense, someone being on the block who unpredictably wins the blockbuster, leaving 2 nominees that you may not have expected. Those are the things that make it good. I think there's a couple problems here with it. Number one is the Tucker effect, which Kelley, who has only watched 2 seasons, very much incorrectly saw for the surface level of just be on the block every week. That's the move. And then second, you've got 2 people that are basically house pariahs in Keanu and Kelley now, who will always just take 2 spots until they leave. So even though they can be a good source of drama and provide drama, they're making the game stagnant otherwise if they keep staying. So it's like weird that you would want the drama to now leave to make the game move forward again. I think also putting up a potential 4 nominees makes people scared to do that. I think also the 2 comps, while it should be very clear of like, okay, there's a lot of comps this season, let me get out some of these people that could win some comps. You're afraid to do that now because you're giving them 2 chances to survive. And then if you put 3 able-bodied people to win comps up, then that's at least 2 of them that are coming after you next week, or at least that's how you're going to look at it. So I think that there's a lot of pros, but I think the cons are really bad for the remainder, like for the rest of the format.
Yeah, and this was when we initially talked about this twist. It was like, I think there are some heavy upsides, but there are some potential downsides, and a lot of that has to do with the idea of equitable competitions. And luckily, the competitions did skew more equitable. But the issue is that like the players don't always feel that way. And so what I've noticed is, and this is maybe a small sign of concern for this twist long term, is that if you go back and think about it, when we had big evictions, like big blindsides, big targets, players going out, historically, it's always been an accident.
Yeah.
Almost always it's been an accident. Angela getting Matt out is basically the only time an HOH has actively targeted a big target and gotten their target out under this format. Every other time, like Chelsea got her target Lisa out, but that was Chelsea at the top of a power structure trying to do what Lauren thinks she's doing. Cedric gets Kenny out. Quinn accidentally gets Cedric out. It was an accident. He did not put Cedric up to target him. Tucker, for his credit, did put up 3 big targets. Still couldn't get his actual target out, but at least went for it. Then T-Core accidentally gets Tucker out, and then Quinn accidentally gets Joseph out. And now in the first week of this season, Vince accidentally gets Zay out. And then Jimmy takes Amy out. And all of a sudden we're looking at a situation where it's like, does this work? Or like, where are we, right? I'm not ready to call it quits on the blockbuster, but I think it's something worth noting at this point. And I think that part of it is the Tucker phenomenon. Part of it is that we're getting a lot of HOHs that are very hesitant. I don't think it helped that Vince was the first HOH and really set the tone for the season, and that everyone is kind of following in his very sort of like passive footsteps. But I'm very curious to see if this changes as weeks go on. A lot of people are saying it's too early. Yeah. So hopefully we start to see a little bit more of some shifts and some bigger plays as we move forward. Maybe it'll even happen this week, but I do think that this is a definite downside to the twist. Like I said, I don't think that means we should call it quits. I think there are some very solid trade-offs, even if we do accept that this isn't a side effect of the twist, but worth just kind of keeping an eye on.
I think even like we saw the most boring scenario play out last week, which was Amy was practically guaranteed to leave. Even then, it makes the it makes the game leading up to Thursday still a game. There's a pulse there. There's movement. So many seasons we've seen by Monday, the game is done. That week is over. People have moved on. It doesn't matter. So it does add that. I like that. I think that they were too quick to immediately make it what they called a permanent fixture to the season. I think they could have experimented with it a little bit longer. But I also do think that using results-oriented thinking is valid here, because I think Lauren has made very clear she's someone who's going to be a little bit less wanting to make a move like that rapidly. I think Jimmy was a huge surprise to a lot of people that he went the very safe route. But I do think there's people in this house that would be unafraid to make the hard decisions. They've just not won the power. And I think that's when we would get peak excitement. And so we'll wait and see for that to happen. But for the indecisive, or for the more, I don't want drama, I don't want blood on my hands people, it does slow the game down rapidly when they're just going to put like 3 consensuses up.
Yeah, and what I will say also is that there's a chance that a part of this is just due to like casting to some degree. There's always that possibility. We noted in the preseason that like the vast majority of this cast all said, I want to lie low early on. Mm-hmm. Maybe that needs to be a screening question in casting. Like if you're saying like, hey, I want to lie low early in the game, like maybe that's not a person to cast on the show. Maybe that's not somebody that's going to make for like the most exciting television. And maybe we need people who are a little more bold for as much as Kelley is a problem. And I don't think Kelley, I think, would be much more fun to watch if she had never seen Tucker play.
I mean, she is basically trying to copy paste him. That's the vibe I'm on. That's what I'm getting from her. She really has found an idol and is trying to emulate that idol. Also, but I want to reiterate what I said earlier as well, that even the players who I think would be unafraid to make those hard decisions and make quote unquote like moves that could shake things up, I think as long as Keanu and Kelley are there, they're taking spots 1 and 2. Their third spot is up for grabs. And I think that's the problem also with this format. When there's like 2 consensuses, it slows it down.
I do think the double veto last week did not help things.
Right.
And
we could have had one go
before too, where like, theoretically you have this idea that like, oh, you keep these big drama targets around, it's going to be more exciting. When the reality is it just keeps the house in stasis while they're still there, constantly targeting the same people, and nothing is like able to change as much. So yeah, I don't think that helped either. But that
I mean, we think of week 2 last year, right? If we go into week 3 with Lisa and Kenny still there, guess who are number 1 and 2 on the block again next week? Like that would have happened. I think her leaving did shake it, did ultimately remove some drama, but then shook up the nominees, which made some drama as well.
Yeah, basically, yeah. As soon as Lisa and Kenny left, things got way more exciting last season. So we may have to wait for Keanu and or Kelley to leave before we start seeing more excitement here. And unfortunately, we had to take a bit of a detour last week. All right. So Morgan talks to Lauren. Oh, by the way, Kelley, when talking to Lauren, says, I'm just having a lot of fun. I don't know if you know this, but I've basically instigated every fight this season. Going on to explain how she's the reason that Rachel and Keanu got into a fight, and Rachel and Zay got into a fight, and so on and so on. She's been saying this forever, but she's now saying it to HOH Lauren as well. Morgan talks to Lauren. We mentioned this conversation a little bit earlier, but it's basically the same thing. Like Morgan is giving Lauren advice. Do what's best for you. Don't let anyone run your HOH. So on and so forth. And it's becoming very clear that like the way that people view Lauren in the house is inviting them into like thinking that the best way to talk to her is by giving her advice for how to run her HOH, and specifically saying don't let other people run your HOH, which I think should be very telling to Lauren in like how people see her. The fact that so many people are unsolicitedly saying don't let people run your HOH should be a massive tell for the way that people view her in the game, and something that she should quite frankly try to, either play into or get out from under, because it's not a great place to be.
Yeah, I mean, the perception very much is this is someone who needs guidance and I will be there to guide you. I think it doesn't help that in the first week, a lot of people very much found out and recognized that she was someone who did not know where to go, had a lot of indecision with the vote. So they're like, and she's younger. So that perception also is kind of automatically built in with someone younger. You think they need guidance. So that's kind of what everyone's doing, giving unsolicited advice. Now, I will say, before Morgan and her talked, when Kelley was in the room with her, Morgan did walk by and Kelley was like, I don't trust her. And Lauren said, me too. So that's already, there's something there also, the rift there.
Hey, I have an idea. If you don't trust somebody and they're like a big active player in the game and you're HOH, I don't know, maybe you put them up.
It's too early, Taran. What are you talking about?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe you put up people you don't trust that are maybe coming for you instead of the people that you're talking to about not trusting those people that you don't have a problem with. I don't know. That's just me though.
Wow. Yeah, I was about to go against it because I'm like, yeah, but if she puts up Morgan, let's say she puts up Mickey, there's a world neither go home and now both come after you. So like by that logic, it makes sense that would happen. But also then you might be risking getting rid of someone who you want to keep, like a Kelley, which that seems like a worse.
They're really going to come after Lauren before Keanu and Kelley and them, like they're and then people are going to vote Lauren, and not to mention the fact that like if you nominate three of them, like one of them going to leave, and the reality is that like then one of those people would win, and they'd be like, well, I don't know, it's too early to go after Lauren right now. She's a big player, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny too when you hear them talk about later on. We did hear them talk about who they want to see in jury. And Taran, the list was very long of people who they don't want to see in jury, who they have no interest in putting up on the block. So it's like, I don't want to see them, no, it's too early. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put them up.
So Zach talks to Lauren, and they celebrate her HOH win. And when talking about nominations, Zach, he just is not active enough in this conversation. This is pretty, I think, typical of Zach. It reminds me of how he operated in the first week, especially when he was talking to Vince and like pushing in a certain direction, and then eventually was like, wait a minute, that's kind of stupid. Maybe I'll push in this other direction. But it took him a long time. And so Zach, when talking to Lauren, is doing the Vince thing. Quite frankly, even worse to some degree. Saying, yeah, I agree. Keanu and Kelley are smart nominations. And if you're looking at Will, I think Will is a fine option for a pawn. I think that, yeah, you're probably looking at a pawn situation. You probably would want to pull from the bond. Yeah, that makes sense. Will, maybe even Adrian. You could put Adrian on the block. He was chill about it last time. He maybe win the blockbuster. I honestly, you could do me. But I'm probably too much of a target, so I wouldn't say that. So, but yeah, I like your thought process, and I'm just like, Zach, dude.
So
doing.
He brings that point up not once, twice, but like 3 times. That hey, you could put me up, but I have a target on me, so I wouldn't recommend that. Do you like this move from him? Is this a good passive way to be like, this isn't about me. If anything, I'd volunteer. Like I'm trying to be a team player. Do you think that's good from him?
No. For many reasons. Like
give them to us.
Right? Like we have to start at the level that we're talking about already assumes that like suggesting a pawn from the alliance is a good thing in the first place, which I don't agree with. I think that like trying to be like, well, I'm not just suggesting our allies to go up as pawns because I'm a selfish player. I'm doing it because I think we should all be pawns. It's like, no, none of you should be pawns. You included in the group does not help the base concept, which was bad to begin with. But then even if you do accept that like, okay, one of us has to be a pawn, I still don't like saying it could be me. But I'm too big of a target. because I think you're still then inviting the concept of you as an option into the conversation. And if for any reason Lauren was inclined to do this, now all of a sudden she has an in to start working on it, to start being like, oh, so you're willing. The only problem is you have a target. Well, what if you didn't have as much of a target as you thought? Now all of a sudden you're trying to argue the only point you have to keep yourself off the block. And now it looks like you're fighting to not be on the block, which is the exact opposite of what you intended in the first place. So I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, I do like that argument of, hey, once you put it out there in the ether, someone will justify a reason to put you up regardless of you being a target or not. They're like, no, but you're Zach. Everyone loves you. What are you going to say? No, no one loves me. Like, come on, stop that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I think that is not a good spot to land yourself in. Now, I want to also say, Taran, it's from here and also a little bit earlier that we do hear Lauren on multiple occasions say she really wants to have a conversation with the entire Bond Alliance. Because obviously, the more conversation she's having, the more she's like, that third spot really looking like a Will slot to me. So I just need to talk to him first. So that's all out. That's when I cracked the Red Bull can open. When I heard that, I was like, we have action.
Pooya.
Yeah, I don't learn from my mistakes, Taran. I make them over and over again.
Well, all this is happening, and Rachel's having a rough night. She just lost Amy, and she also just lost the HOH competition. And she explains this to Ashley. She's just like, she's genuinely crying. She's just like, I can't win anything. Like, this is not what happens. My whole identity is that I won competitions. If I can't win comps anymore, who am I? Why am I here? Genuinely. She's saying this genuinely. She's sobbing. Why am I here? I miss my family. I don't like being away from them. I want to see them. I can't win anything to get those pictures. What am I doing here? I'm tarnishing my legacy. I can't win any competitions anymore. What am I doing here? And Ashley is trying to comfort her. Because Rachel continues to be like, and these people, there's so many of them are so fake nice. I'm just so Jimmy is a problem, Vince is a big problem, and I tried to talk to Morgan about it, and Morgan was like, nah, Vince isn't a problem. These people are so fake. And of course Ashley's like, see, I told you, you didn't listen to me before. You were mad at me for saying that earlier, but now you agree with me, right? And Rachel is crying. Rachel eventually gets some better comfort from Mickey and Morgan, but she's having a rough night.
Oh, for sure. I mean, losing your number one ally and also, I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember correctly, the final four in the competition were herself, Mickey, Morgan, and Lauren, I think. So she got close also, which I don't think helps. And I do want to pull up Brendan. The lovely Brendan Villegas did tweet out today that, there is no doubt some legitimate disappointment on Rachel's part, but we also plan for her to lean into her being older and not being the same Rachel to decrease the target on her back. I think the emotions are coming from a place of authenticity. I think this is a real feeling Rachel's having, but also I think it is recognized that there's it's like every rose has its thorn. There's a silver lining here, and that is it makes her look weaker, which is good for her.
Yeah, I mean, I had that thought, whether this is real or not, this is a good line of a good line to take. So interesting that they discussed that she might play this up. That's fun to hear. Okay, so Zach talks to Ava, and Ava starts to hear from the grapevine that Will is looking like he might be a pawn, and Ava does not like this. Ava says, excuse me. She goes to Will. She lets him know. She says, what is happening? I'm pissed. And the two of them both agree that the bond is over if he goes up on the block. It's done. It's kaput. It's dead. There's no bond. And the Long Island in Ava is going to come out if this happens.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be infuriating. It's a named alliance we are in. It's week 3. There are more options than ever before. Why are one of us even considered for the block? That means it's not real, or at least that's how you should take it if you're someone like Ava or someone like Will. Why it's not real then? I should feel the safest I've been coming off the block if someone in my alliance wins, but that didn't happen. I'm being told I could be going up. Why would I be okay with this?
Yeah, I mean, Lauren could not have like gifted a better present to Mickey this week than to decide against nominating Ashley, going and instead nominating Will, targeting Keanu and Kelley for her, and pushing Ava out of the Bond alliance at the same time that Mickey is bonding pretty heavily with Ava, because it's really looking like Mickey might be able to pick up that dropped Ava piece, along with Will, who she already has such a good relationship with also. Speaking of Ava, we talked yesterday about the maybe proposed final two between Rachel and Ava. That was not brought up again. I mentioned yesterday that it did seem like it was possible she was recounting some kind of story rather than actually proposing a final two. I think that we have to assume that was the case until we see any further discussion about this, because there really isn't any strategic connection right now between Ava and Rachel worth mentioning. So it seems to me like Mickey is much more likely to be able to pick Ava up from the Bond alliance if she really does depart from it.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something I would anticipate also, is seeing a great free agent pickup here, someone who could be a piece for the longevity of yourself get recruited, especially because she's already like had, you know, Will on her site, like in her sights. I think this is this only further like puts glue together to the foundations built on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Will joins Ava and Vince joins Ava and Will, and they let him know like this is stupid. If Will goes up, Bond is done. And Vince is like, oh yeah, no, yeah, maybe I'll talk to Lauren. Maybe we can still prevent this from happening. Of course, he has basically no desire to push anything. But theoretically, he should be, right? Like it's everything is screaming at Vince like, this is not good for your game. The Bond is good for you. Your connection to Ava and Will is good for you. Your position in the house is bolstered by the Bond existing in the way that it does. And on top of that, Ashley is your biggest op, and so Ashley going up instead of Will just makes so much more sense. So like he should be going up there and pushing Ashley. Will he? Not really.
Yeah, no. I think that was the point for me, right? Where there's an agenda for him specifically that would be better in so many ways, and that is Ashley going up by voicing, hey, these two in our alliance not happy about this prospect. We maybe shouldn't do this. Let's look somewhere else. Let's just do Ashley. What could go wrong? Would be the better outcome. But again, a little too passive for his liking, a little too willing to go to Arby's for lunch, this man. Very too willing. So
yeah. Ashley talks to Morgan and begins her sort of campaign for what I imagine might be the week, where she basically says, well, if Kelley and Keanu are up on the block, I think Kelley should go over Keanu. And Morgan disagrees. She says, no, Keanu is a bigger wild card. Keanu is a bigger problem. Obviously, it does make more sense for Morgan to take the shot at Keanu. Granted, they are both problems for Morgan. But Ashley says, but the thing is, Kelley actually wins things. And Morgan's like, oh, yeah, I hear you on that. And this is the start of, I think, what I imagine will be a much longer conversation throughout the week. But there is even an update to it later in the night, which maybe we should just skip to, because she later talks to both Morgan and Mickey about this and continues to push the idea that Kelley is good at puzzles. She's more of a threat. And they are starting to hear her out on this. Like there's maybe a chance that they would think about taking Kelley out over Keanu. But we'll see. I think there's very early days in this, just worth, taking note of.
Yeah, I think also it's a little bit of an inflated target with Kelley, because one of those comps was a 2-minute puzzle that she faced nobody to get. Like, that's not a competition like a veto is at all. More like an HOH is. She's not versing 10 people. That was a solo 8-piece puzzle.
Sorry, yeah. I just glanced at what was happening right now.
Yeah, your eyes got big. What am I missing? Paint me a picture.
Not to spoil tomorrow's update, but Rachel is talking to Lauren this morning and just said to Lauren that Jimmy and Vinny are running the game. So that's going to be a problem. Anyway. So Keanu talks to Lauren and tries to make a pitch for why she should not put him on the block. Essentially saying like, I've been good with you. I have no problem with you. You know who my targets are. Everyone else is looking to target me. Why would you do their work for them? It's not a bad pitch, considering there's like, I might say the same thing. But to Lauren, if I were talking to Lauren about Keanu right now, but she's, she's not really hearing it, of course.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Did I get disconnected? No. Okay.
No.
Yeah. No. We can move on.
Okay. Vince gets back to Lauren, and he this is when he says, I am sick of Kelley. Oh my God. Why is he sick of Kelley? Because she keeps trying to throw Rachel under the bus, and I don't think I can trust her. Kelley's telling me that Rachel said that I was going to run your HOH. Now, this is true. Rachel said this directly to Lauren. But the thing is, and now what's happening right now might change all of this, but the thing is that Lauren apparently didn't catch Vince's name when Rachel was saying that. Lauren says, well, she did say, don't let Jimmy run my HOH.
Yeah. So I was watching this conversation, Taran, in the bathroom when she does bring this up. It does go Jimmy and Vinny. So it's like if you blink, you might have missed the and Vinny part because it's very quick and it rhymes. So the Jimmy part was heard. The Vinny was left on the cutting room floor. Now that doesn't matter because apparently she does say it to her face later again.
So Vince is convinced that Kelley is instigating again because she's always bragging about instigating. He says she's always talking about how she's instigating all these fights, but what if she's instigating me too? And because I don't believe her. I don't think that Rachel said that because, and this is the key, how would Rachel know? How would Rachel know that we were close? Because nobody knows. Nobody sees it. And to Lauren's credit, she says, well, she did catch us trying to talk like multiple times yesterday. He's like, yeah, but I don't know. I think that Kelley's just trying to stir stuff up. I'm kind of sick of it. And so he is very fine with Kelley going on the block, especially now that she's volunteered. And so, of course, this is what Vince is concerned about up here in the HOH room. Not let's trade Will for Ashley. It's I'm mad at Kelley for saying my name. And he is going to be, let me tell you, spiraling out for the rest of the night about this. He will not talk about anything other than this for the rest of the... I can't believe somebody would even say that. Like, why would they even... It's so insulting even to you, Lauren, that somebody would say that, to assume that your HOH would be run by anybody. Like, I don't know. I just feel like why is Kelley saying this? I don't know why anybody would say that. I'm not even like publicly that close to you. And then he talks to other people about it. He talks to Morgan about it. He's like, I don't know why somebody would be saying that I'm gonna like running Lauren's HOH. It just doesn't make any sense. He crashes out over this in a spot where he should be getting Ashley on the block. It should be an easy little tee into the hole, and he is like slamming it with a 8 on. I don't know golf.
Yeah, what happened for me was the minute he was sitting down there and heard Ava and Will talking about their distaste for the idea of going up on the block, I thought, okay, when Vince gets to that HOH room later, and I know he will, that's going to be fun. But it felt like he was distracted by this, like you said, the entire way. None of that really mattered. It was more so he wanted to vent, I felt like, more than talk about noms, if anything. He just was very frustrated about all this. And also, I can't blame him for not knowing whether he can trust Kelley or not moving forward, Because let's face it, Kelley admits to him multiple times that she's instigating everything, to the point where he's like, can I even trust her? Am I one of the ones that she's instigating with at this point? So messing with his head, but also I think feeling like Rachel is a target, but also worrying about wanting to do anything about it because worrying that it's too early. So, you go round and round with this.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the process of this, Adrian comes into the HOH room to chat, and Vince is so just like caught up on like, hey, I've been trying to find time with you, Lauren. I feel like I've barely been able to talk to you, even though he's talked with her longer than anybody by far so far in the night, very publicly. And so Adrian comes in, and Adrian's like, hey guys, like he's got some thoughts. He thinks, hey, what about Jimmy? Right? I think, just so you know, Jimmy has mentioned your name as a pawn before. I think that Jimmy is a liar, and I hate liars. And so I think you should be going after maybe Jimmy. Or maybe even Rachel. Like if I were HOH, I was going to do something like Keanu, Jimmy, and Rachel, or maybe Morgan. And so he's trying to have this conversation with them. He's trying to like talk with them in this way, but they're not interested in what he has to say. They're shutting him down. And they're very clearly just like, you know how this is. Sometimes, I experienced this in college in particular. Like, somebody's in the room and you were like kind of in the middle of something, and they're like, oh, they're trying to hang. It's kind of like, Keanu walks in and you're like, we were just having a moment. We're Ava and Mickey, and we were just having a moment, and Keanu walks in, and now we're just kind of like, we don't want to tell him to leave, but also like, we're kind of waiting for him to leave. That was what they were doing to Adrian in this moment. And Lauren's like, yeah, maybe I'm going to take like a shower or something. So maybe, and Adrian's like, all right, yeah, we'll head out. We'll head out. Vince and I will head out. And Adrian's leaving. And then Vince is like, I'm just going to stay for like 5 minutes. And Adrian's like, okay. And he leaves, and then Lauren and Vince continue to then talk for like forever. And Adrian is like, oh, okay. So Vince is sketchy as hell.
Yeah, Adrian immediately beelines to Zach and says he feels skeptical about everything happening. Specifically also names the fact that Vince stays back and hangs out with Lauren without him there. I think Adrian, and I thought about this and talked about this last night. I think Adrian's we've talked at length about how everyone sees Adrian as this honest guy, and that is a good thing because he's an honest guy. Nothing to hide with Adrian. But I think it's coming at a bit of a detriment now, where people are like, he's too honest. And I think that the too honest and also, sharing too much with a lot of people, I think is going to just cost him more than it's helping him moving forward.
Yeah. So yeah, Adrian goes to Zach and tells him about this situation and how he's sketched out about Vince right now, that he thought he could trust Vince, but Vince is clearly with Lauren and trying to influence her nominations. And, he thinks Vince is probably trying to play everyone. Like this is not good. And he also lets Zach know that Mickey has been saying Zach's name, that he's been hearing that from Mickey. Rachel tried to warn Mickey about Adrian, but Adrian is trusting Zach, and Mickey tried to warn Adrian about Zach, because Zach then goes straight back up to Vince and Lauren and lets them know that Adrian is sketched out by Vince now. So it's just like a little bit of the rat gets ratted out by a new rat who was ratted out by another rat. Just a lot of rats going on, I guess.
Ratception, if you will.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Vince and Lauren had been talking more about the nominations, and Lauren is continuing to settle in on Will as the nominee, and Vince is offering very little pushback on this. In fact, in some ways, he's advocating for it. He agrees with her logic that Ashley is not somebody that should be nominated because she's too dangerous. She might survive, win a comp, and come after Lauren, and therefore Will does make some sense. Now, Lauren does briefly bring up the idea, like, I did have the thought that, like, what if I backdoored Rachel? And they were like, no, that's just the super fan and you kind of going wild. Backdooring Rachel is a much better move than most of the other things that she's talked about so far. So the fact that it's a possibility could redeem her HOH theoretically. But that's kind of what they talk about. Then Zach joins them. And Adrian comes back up as well, and they talk more about the nominations. Zach finally has realized, wait a minute, I don't want Will to go up if Ashley is a possibility. Please put up Ashley. But at this point, it's too late. Lauren has already locked in. She says, I've got arguments against Ashley. I think it's too risky. I think Will makes more sense.
Yeah, I think one of the other things with Ashley was that they thought, okay, let's call Ashley the fourth nominee. The in case veto gets used glass would be Ashley. And I think once that happened, there really wasn't any turning and making her the initial nom. What I also want to put out there is that Zach did get in right before Adrian and did give them the heads up of like, hey, you're not being trusted down there, Vince. He's not really messing with that. So yeah, so that's kind of where things lie with this group. And also, when you said they talked about more when the four of them got there, it really was Adrian talked the most, and it did not matter. So I just kind of, this is when I started tuning out a little bit. I was like, let me not pay attention all that much to Adrian, because sadly, it's falling on deaf ears.
Mm-hmm. Adrian does finally get Lauren alone after all of that as well, and tries to tell her that Vinny is sketching him out, and that she should make a bigger move like Jimmy or Rachel. Again, though, falls on deaf ears. Vince continues to spiral out about being talked about. Ashley, Mickey, and Morgan talk about Kelley versus Keanu. And then Mickey has a conversation with Ashley. The final portion of this podcast, because it's already a long one, is a bit of an Ashley journey in the night here. It starts with Mickey talking to Ashley, saying, hey, just to give you a heads up, you're being a little messy sometimes. You know, you're kind of getting involved in people's business. Like when you were trying to tell Riley that Kat doesn't like him like that. Like now they're mad at you. Like you probably shouldn't do stuff like that. And Ashley says, I disagree. That was all personal. Had nothing to do with game. If they made it into game, I mean, that's not my fault.
It is your game that is impacted. So maybe don't do that. I did love this. It was the old clean it up a little bit. Like get better at what you're doing out here.
Unfortunately for Mickey, Ashley then almost immediately, not immediately, but felt like immediately, went and talked to Zach about Lauren and Morgan late into the night, right after being warned by Mickey, hey, maybe don't do this. Goes to Zach. And she's talking to him. She's like, man, I feel like it's been a while since we've had like bud conversations because we're buds. And you know, like, what are you feeling about like Lauren and Morgan? And he's trying to talk about how he feels like, you know, he thinks that, you know, his relationship with Morgan, you know, there are things that you talk about and things that should make it clear that like it's not really a romantic thing, essentially. And she's like, oh, because you're more interested in Lauren. He's like, yeah, you know, Lauren's definitely more my type. And Ashley's like, well, you need to make that more clear. And he's like, it's not really that clear. She's like, nah. You made a joke today about how I looked good, and someone said that they saw her make a face. So, and he's like, what? She's like, can't you tell? She's in love with you. Like, in love with you. And he's like, oh man. And she's like, yeah, I just feel like you got to make this really clear. I mean, some of the things you're doing might seem a little misleading. You're spending like all day with her, you know, like hanging out with her, having long conversations. Like maybe you shouldn't be doing that. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
If Ashley gets put up on that block as nominee number 4, Taran, I can see a universe where she is out this week and the Kelley Keanu reign continues on that block. I could see it.
I just couldn't believe that this conversation came after the one that she had with Mickey.
Oh, unbelievable. Like it really felt like Mickey was putting down all the good points. It didn't like, it was the perfect tone. It wasn't coming off of it was like very much a I'm caring for you way. So the fact that not only it fell on deaf ears, you immediately saw it not work. You immediately saw it revert back. it's like you're unhelpable. I can't help you at this point. You're gonna do what you Ashley's gonna Ashley, and that's just gonna have to be something we deal with, you know?
Wild stuff. Wild stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Pooya, anything else from yesterday?
I mean, for the people who care about the have-nots, Rachel and Mickey as outgoing have-nots got to pick the have-nots. Rachel picked Catherine, Mickey picked Jimmy, and also Lauren's music was Beyonce's Renaissance, so you got that in the back pocket as well. And honestly, I don't see any reason to prolong this. I feel like there's stuff happening right now that we should go watch, and you should talk about tomorrow.
Yes. All right. Well, of course, headlines here. Lauren, the HOH, is looking at nominating Keanu, Kelley as a volunteer, Keanu as a target, and Will as a pawn. But especially, again, with sort of like that conversation that I was just seeing about Rachel and how much Rachel has been starting to push Jimmy and Vince in particular. Don't be completely out on the idea of Rachel ending up on the block in one way or another, and don't also count out Ashley ending up on the block in one way or another throughout all of this. So we'll see what happens with all of that. In the meantime, check out the interview we did with Amy. Find me over on Twitch and YouTube. Check out my book, Behind the Mirror, Inside the World of Big Brother. You can pre-order it over at taranarmstrong.com. And also, if you are a patron of Rob Has a Podcast, then very shortly, Pooya and I, filling in for Rob, will be doing the Q&A for Big Brother, the Big Brother Q&A for the patrons of Rob Has a Podcast. If you want to come and ask us some questions, we can chat about all kinds of stuff over there. Pooya, anything else to talk about? Anything else to plug?
Nope. Just go check out the latest Pooya and Liana Lounge podcast. Next week is our big episode 30. We're doing a Q&A on there, actually. So we do have a form. You can go to that form, submit some questions that you want Liana and I to answer, and we can make that happen. Otherwise, find me on all socials at Pooyaism.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.